Title: AITA for refusing to visit my dad after my room was converted to an office bedroom. Verdict: not the asshole. I used to visit my dad most weekends during the school year and then stay with him pretty much the entire summer. It was kind of our routine. My parents split when I was younger, and while I live with my mom full time, my dad and I always had this pattern where his place was my second home. I had my own room there, my own stuff, my own space. It wasn't just a guest room, it was my room. Recently, my dad got remarried. I actually have a decent relationship with his new wife. We'll call her Elaine. She's never been mean to me or anything, and we've had some good conversations. It's not like we're super close, but we get along. Along with her came my two stepbrothers. They're younger than me, and I don't really interact with them much beyond basic small talk. We're not hostile, we're just not close. My dad has a 4-bedroom house. Before the wedding, the setup was my dad's room, my room, and 2 other rooms that were kind of flexible spaces. Once he remarried, the idea was that each kid would have their own bedroom. That made sense to me. I assumed I still had my room, just like always. Last month, I went over to my dad's place for a weekend visit. Nobody had warned me that anything had changed. When I got there, my dad and Elaine were acting kind of excited and weird, like they had a surprise for me. They took me down the hall to show me something, and that's when I saw it. My room was gone. The room that had always been mine was completely redone. The bed, my posters, the little things I'd left there over the years to make it feel like home, all of that was gone. In its place was a sleek office setup, a big desk, computer, shelves, and a couch that pulled out into a bed. It did look nice, I guess, but it didn't look like my room anymore. It looked like an office that happened to have a place for someone to sleep. They were smiling and waiting for my reaction, like I was supposed to be happy about it. My dad said something like, "Look, we renovated your room so it can be an office for Elaine during the day, but you still have a place to sleep when you're here." He pointed at the pull-out couch, like that made it all okay. Apparently, Elaine works from home and needed an office. Instead of using one of the other rooms or figuring out a different setup, they decided that my room was the one that could be multi-purpose. Except it didn't feel multi-purpose. It felt like it was hers now, and I was just borrowing it. I didn't cry or yell or throw a tantrum. I just kind of shut down. I said it looked nice, because it did, objectively. I slept in there that weekend because I didn't want to start a fight or ruin the visit. But the whole time, I felt like a guest in a place that used to be mine. I kept looking around and thinking, there's nothing here that says I belong. When I went back to my mom's house after that weekend, I told her what happened. She tried to be neutral at first and said maybe my dad just didn't think it through. She encouraged me to keep going over there, to talk to him about it, and to give it a chance. But the more I thought about it, the more it hurt. My dad and I had already had some issues before this. Little things that made me feel like I was slowly becoming less of a priority. He'd cancel some weekends because he was busy, or he'd forget plans we made. Nothing huge on its own, but it added up. The room situation just felt like the final confirmation that I wasn't really part of his everyday life anymore. I was more like an occasional visitor. I decided I didn't want to stay overnight at his house anymore. I told my mom I was old enough to decide where I wanted to sleep, and she eventually stopped pushing me to go. She said she wouldn't force me, but she did suggest I at least explain my feelings to my dad. My dad noticed pretty quickly that I wasn't coming over for weekends like I used to. He called and asked what was going on. I told him, calmly, that converting my room into an office really hurt me. I said it made me feel like I didn't matter as much, like I was just an afterthought. I told him that I'd still be willing to see him, but only for day visits or dinners. I didn't want to sleep there anymore because it didn't feel like my space. He got really upset. He said he hadn't meant to hurt me, that he thought I'd be okay with it since I didn't live there full time. He said they needed an office and that it was still my room too because of the pull-out bed. I told him it didn't feel that way to me. It felt like they chose convenience over making sure I still felt at home. He ended up crying during the conversation. He apologized and said he would change the room back, that he'd get me a real bed again and make it my room. But by then, I felt like the damage was already done. It wasn't just about the furniture. It was about the fact that he made a big decision about my space without even talking to me, and only tried to fix it when I pulled away. I told him I appreciated the apology, but I was done staying overnight. I said I'd still see him, still have dinners, still hang out during the day, but I wasn't going to pretend that everything was the same. For me, that room being turned into an office was the final thing that sealed the deal. It showed me where I really fit into his new life. Now I feel really guilty. I keep replaying him crying in my head and wondering if I'm being too harsh. I'm going to be 15 in a few months, so I'm not a little kid anymore, and I feel like I should be able to set boundaries about where I'm comfortable staying. But part of me still feels awful for hurting his feelings. So, am I the asshole for refusing to visit my dad overnight after he converted my room into an office/bedroom?